Red leather, yellow leather. Hello, I am Popefire, the Starfire Outlaw. I should have some people hop on with me later, but right now I just wanted to sort of rant a little bit. Um, I know we're doing this at Drawn and Quartered, but it should be okay. I don't really care too much about streaming. I just like ranting. Um, First, hi Lorenzo. Hello, good dog press. I should probably send the link into the Twitter one. Should I not? Um, First I wanted to sort of start off with of course we will be continuing the stickers. Pope Raven is going to pick up the work on that. I really do appreciate Pope Raven for that, so that's pretty cool. Two, I sort of wanted to talk about Teen Titans Go real quick because I know during the drunk stream I was supposed to talk about it and I didn't. A lot of the reasons, and this is something you won't see from a lot of YouTubers bring up, because a lot of the YouTubers that talk about Teen Titans Go really aren't Teen Titans fans, and a lot of that comes down to they just follow the latest trend on what to hate and stuff. So when Teen Titans Go originally decided to happen, what it was a whole bunch of fans came together and they all voted on the DC Saturday block show. With what happened the other night with the man. No, I think I'm gonna be the only woman in here tonight. But the DC street, like DC on Saturdays used to hold little shorts of of different DC animated shows, like including Plastic Man, this really weird 3D animated like Batman thing. They would do like Superhero Girls, or the show that would eventually become DC Superhero Girls. And they had a short on there called New Teen Titans. And on that short, people like it was more rooted with the original Teen Titans cartoon, as a lot of their mini episodes would feature stuff kind of in contrast to the Teen Titans cartoon. And what happened was that one was, of course, the most viewed one, the one that fans loved the absolute most. So they brought it back, but instead of going with New Teen Titans, they stuck. They like completely wiped the creative team on the New Teen Titans shorts, and then brought in these new people. And these people, oh god, this was during New 52, right? And DC at the New 52, wasn't good. They were not nice to their fan base. They actively told fans. I think it was Dan Dildo that said he didn't really care about old viewers. He wanted new ones. They brought in these two creators. I don't really know their names because I don't care about them. But they admitted several times that they'd never watched the original Teen Titans series, that they didn't like the original Teen Titans series. And it caused some backlash with the fans when the series actually dropped. And it was really mediocre, because where New Teen Titans connected to the original show and actually had love towards the characters, Teen Titans Go didn't do that. Instead, Teen Titans Go had really cheap Flash animated designs. Like Beast Boy looked like a stoner. The characters felt like the complete opposite of each other. There's even an episode where Starfire says it's okay. Yeah, Dan Dildo. There's even an episode where Starfire says it's okay to bully people based on their misfortunes, which is not something you want to teach younger kids because it's just, his name is Dan Dildo. Yes, his name is Dan Dildo, and that will always be his name because he is a massive giant dildo. But fans were not happy with Teen Titans Go, and instead of the Teen Titans Go people going, how can we improve? They thought it would be really fun if they constantly insulted the fan base. And there's several episodes where they pretty much called original Teen Titans fans, or even comic book fans, massive losers. And yes, there's this stereotype that comic book fans are fat nerds and all this other stuff, but Teen Titans was very interesting of a cartoon because that's when a lot of women got into like the superhero genre. And there's actually a large portion of women that enjoy Teen Titans now because of the cartoon. Teen Titans generally does have a large female fan base, or relatively large in comparison to other fan bases. I think X-Men is the only one that comes pretty close. I think X-Men may have a bigger one, but it's just so interesting though, because they did so many episodes just insulting the fan base and then acting like, well, you guys just don't like us. It's not like we called you guys fat losers. You guys just don't like us, and that's not really the case, because yes, there were some people that were actually upset at Teen Titans Go, but you have to remember that the Teen Titans fan base came together. We watched the new Teen Titans shorts. We were all there. We voted for the show to come back. We tried everything to get the show back. And instead of giving a little bit of respect to the fan base with New Teen Titans, which arguably a lot of the fan base enjoyed, they went with a completely new creative staff who did Teen Titans Go and actively insulted them. So it's understandable that a lot of people would be upset with Teen Titans Go. However, Teen Titans Go is for children. I don't think that it's fair to criticize it constantly and consistently and definitely compare it to the original series, because it's not that. Again, it's a new creative team that doesn't really care about comics. They don't really care about continuity. They just care about stupid jokes. And I will give them this. At least they're not Steven Universe. And that's a big thing to say, but they really are one of the only kids cartoons right now that's not full-blown SJW, where they have just stupid SpongeBob-ish episodes instead of full preachy episodes. And yes, there are some preachy episodes where it's like girl power and all this other stuff, and they make Robin a complete idiot, but for the most part it stays away from social justice. So I will give it that. And it did make the Teen Titans relevant again, because I do not think we wouldn't have as many products as we have for Teen Titans. I don't think Titans would have happened, which probably would have been better if Titans didn't happen. And I don't think we would have got the Teen Titans movies of Justice League versus Teen Titans and Teen Titans Studios Contract, which Teen Titans Studios Contract was supposed to be made back in like 2005, and they kept canceling it because they didn't think people would be interested in Teen Titans. Very funny though, because the original Teen Titans was like the first series on Cartoon Network to get a season 5. So obviously people don't like Teen Titans. It's just so interesting though, because Teen Titans fans have sort of been mistreated for a while, because again, one of the only series that has done very successful, or has been very successful, is of course the Teen Titans cartoon. Yes, the Steven Universe creator is known for drawing yaoi. And that is, of course, gay porn, and she does it with several Cartoon Network characters. And it's very uncomfortable because a lot of those characters are underage. To sort of get into Steven Universe, I mean, we'll finish up with the Teen Titans Go stuff, but to sort of get into Steven Universe, there's some weird stuff that's happened with that show, right? Not only was it sort of spawned off of Adventure Time, and Adventure Time's sort of the big push for a lot of SJW content, Steven Universe has a really big problem with inconsistency with their art, where the characters don't even stay on model, and you'll have a lot of characters that don't even stay the same height. And that's very, very annoying. But they also have this, like, they demasculize every man in that show. Well, I will give it credit for one thing. The father is in the show, and even though he's not always with Steven, they do make him out as a positive role model. Okay, so I will give them that. They did keep the father in there, and they actually make the mother look really evil in modern season. So I will give them that, because they didn't completely villainize the father like a lot of SJWs do. But there's this real creepy agenda to push sexuality, and again, there's nothing wrong with being gay or bisexual or anything like that, because again, I have dated several women in my life, but the problem lies down when you introduce it to children, and instead of just trying to educate children on it, you make the sexuality of the characters the only thing that's important to them. And that is an issue, because there's more to a person than basic traits. Like, that's all those are. So they're just traits. They're not your actual personality. They're not everything that you are. Steven Universe takes those sort of sexuality, and they do a lot of creepy stuff with it because what do they call it? When the gems get together. You know what that is?
Not quite sure.
Fusions. Yes, they do like a lot of like the fusions. If you watch it, it's very heavily implied that it's like supposed to represent sex. Um,
I've heard
it's
that.
yeah, and it's kind of creepy because a lot of the times they'll do very sexual dances, and it's not like something I would recommend a child to watch, especially since the top like the majority of people watching Cartoon Network are probably under 11, and you can't really put children in like you can't expose them to super hyperbolized sexual content because it's not good for their developing brain. And again, it's really bad to sort of introduce them to this stuff very early on, and you really should be watching what your children watch if you are watching modern Cartoon Network. But I will give Steven Universe one thing before we move on to the next cartoon. They did an episode with a guy that I'm pretty sure was supposed to represent a conservative, and instead of going, well, he's like, you should just hate him because you don't like, he doesn't agree with you and he's not going to change. They did it to where they were like, don't just hate people to hate people. Like, you do want to show them a positive impact, which is something I think most SJWs could learn. So I will give them that. They didn't villainize the father, and they did do an episode where instead it was instead of just villainizing the conservative guy, they sort of showed like, hey, it's okay to disagree with people. Just show them positive parts of you, and maybe they'll change their mind. Because again, the only way to actually change somebody's mind is to show them positive traits and just show them, hey, this is why I disagree with you. Unfortunately, and this is something that has bothered me because back in high school, we were taught through the debate team, you're going to need to know how to debate in college. You're going to need to know how to have a discussion in college and university. And then I get there and discussion and debate is not welcomed. It really is just the loudest person screaming and crying to get what they want. And yeah, J. Scott Campbell drawing an adult tiger lily tied up in a skimpy clothes is the literal yeah. I didn't appreciate those photos, but I can understand other people that might. Now to move on to sort of the next one. Huh? Oh,
What photos?
Scott Campbell drew an adult tiger lily tied up in a skimpy clothes. I think I remember when that happened too, and the SJWs were really upset about it.
Okay.
Well, what's weird is yeah, um,
Though.
yeah. I didn't like. I'm not big on porn photos though. You know me. Like I don't do
Porn.
like porn stuff.
She wasn't naked.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I know she wasn't naked, but to me, it felt more like a sexual fetish thing, and to me, I'm not really into those types of photos. And that's
Gotcha.
fine. I don't have to be in those type of photos. If other people like them, that's fine. They can enjoy them. I don't care. I didn't make a comment on it. I didn't care if other people liked it. I just didn't like it. Well, the thing about that, Obi-Wan, is YouTube is actively shutting down a conversation on YouTube. If you guys don't remember, there was actually, and I think that this is no longer allowed, but used to, you could downvote a comment so much that the comment would get deleted, and it mostly happened to conservative people on SJW videos because the SJWs would downvote it and massive hordes. And they're trying to do that right now to where you can no longer like mass downvote videos. And again, that really only benefits SJWs because, sorry, SJWs aren't like they say that everybody that disagrees with them are trolls and not just people that are disagreeing with them, because to SJWs there's no such thing as disagreement, because if you do, you're automatically evil.
Right.
Yes, that is something we will get into in one of the other things in one of the other cartoon series we'll talk about. The next one I want to go over, which I believe is the most SJW series at Cartoon Network right now, is OKKO, which actually did an episode on gun control. And instead of saying there's benefits from it, they literally villainized guns in general. And OKKO is completely Canadian, I believe. I think Like even the voice actors and stuff it's like complete Canadian. It's
Probably.
they've done like there's one heterosexual relationship in there, but from the way it's been set up, it seems like OKKO's father is evil and that his mother is like a single mother working really hard and all this other stuff. And it's kind of ridiculous because there's a lot of politics in that show, and I would not recommend that one. Obama actually didn't support gay rights for a long time, but there's so much politics in there that I wouldn't recommend your children ever watching it.
I tried watching an episode to see what it was like. It was horrible.
It's probably the biggest SJW show on Cartoon Network right now. I would say this Star versus Star versus the Forces of Evil is also a major SJW show, but that one's from what do you call it? Disney Channel.
Disney.
But yes, OKKO has a lot of degeneracy in it, normalizing stuff that really shouldn't be normalized, and it's the show that I would recommend the least. Because at least with Steven Universe, they do make some valid points, and the father hasn't been villainized. No, the quiet guy is Adrian. Yeah, what they did in the OKKO episode was they had this gun that turned you into skeletons, and it wasn't even subtle. Like, it was a complete gun control episode, and it was like, well, these are bad. There's no positive benefits at all to them, and it ended with everybody pretty much turning into skeletons, and like there was no turning back, and that they should have just like never had them in the first place.
Stupid.
It wasn't even subtle. Like, at least when I was a kid, stuff like that, like they did something like that, they didn't villainize the entire like people, or they at least, made it to where, I mean, let's go with the original Teen Titans. They had an episode of racism, right? The guy was still a hero, right? He still had good qualities. He was just racist. And Starfire ends the episode with, instead of wanting him to die and instead of leaving him to die, she saves him, and she says at the end of the episode, you can't always change their minds, but you don't stoop to their level, which is a good lesson, which is something that SJWs seem to forget, because they think that Teen Titans was a massive SJW show, and in newsflash, it wasn't. And they forget one of the biggest lessons there, which is don't just attack your enemy. You do want to show them qualities as to why they shouldn't think that way. Because at the end of the episode, he stops and he realizes, like, hey, maybe not all Tamaranians are bad. But the way he words it, Starfire is like, no, all Tamaranians are good, and then he ends up leaving. And another superhero one that we could go back to was Static Shock, which also had an episode of racism, and it sort of showed how when you deal with things in kindness and you treat people with respect and you show them good qualities about you, and you show them, like, hey, that's really outdated, like, you shouldn't really think that way, like, it's not good to think that way, you can actually change their mind, and you can actually give them a reason as to why they shouldn't be racist and why they shouldn't base people solely on their skin color. And that's a good lesson, because you shouldn't see somebody's skin color and just go, okay, well, they must be this, or this. But with Static Shock in particular, they ended on a positive note with the man who was Static Shock's sidekick's father. I don't remember his name. He actually ended it like, okay, you were right. Maybe I shouldn't judge people by their skin alone. And it's just very interesting how cartoons, when I was a child, did deal with those issues, but dealt with them a lot more subtly and didn't completely villainize the person that was like being racist or was doing this or this. They did still make them a good person that just didn't know any better. And SJWs, and I still don't understand how we have so many easily offended people in an era that grew up with South Park, because South Park mocks the ever-loving crap out of this stuff. Yes, the SJWs would have actually preferred for Starfire to leave him to die and then go, well, he had it coming because he was racist. Yeah, well, no, the worst thing you could do to somebody that disagrees with you is prove them right. When you yell at them, when you refuse to have a conversation with them, you're not going to change their mind. You're just going to make them realize, like, they're just going to go, well, I guess they were that way. When you speak it to somebody with kindness and you're open to a debate and you're allowing them to have a conversation with you, they're going to stop. And even if they were angry and upset the conversation, they're going to go home and they're going to think about it later and go, wait, he didn't really, if they're a rational person, they're going to go and be like, he really wasn't that way. Maybe there is something wrong with me and I should reflect on that. That's how a normal person would handle it. Some people that are so set in their ways, like an SJW that believes what they're doing is for the good of all, they're probably going to sit back and go, well, I showed him because he just stand there and didn't know what to do, even though the entire conversation was just them going, it's just so interesting, though, because, yeah, Adrian, you're older than me, so I'm sure you were in the era of, like, the end of Captain Planet, weren't you? Because didn't that end in the 90s?
Yes. I remember Captain Planet.
Yeah, that's probably, like, the least subtle show of all time, though.
It was very not subtle.
Yeah, I believe the people that did Captain Planet, like, also did a lot of stuff with CNN, did they not?
That might be right, yeah.
Yeah, ironically...
I don't know. It was just a big propaganda show, basically.
It was.
I mean, it was a show that had everybody in my generation thinking, climate change, except they called it global warming then.
Mm-hmm.
Was the thing to really worry about.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I went to college and my chemistry teacher even said it's a little crock.
Yeah, it's just very interesting, though, isn't it? Because with the exception of Captain Planet, and I'm sure there's some other shows, but they don't age well, and people don't really remember them. I think Captain Planet's kind of the biggest propaganda cartoon that people remember. And which is funny because SJWs throw massive fits at the fact that there used to be propaganda for Nazism and stuff, because they don't like war cartoons. And ironically, wasn't that like some of the first cartoons was anti-war ones?
Well, during World War II, there was
like massive
there was
Bugs
some
Bunny
anti-war
stuff.
ones.
Yeah.
Some of the Bugs Bunny cartoons and stuff were anti-war or after World War II.
Yeah, and the SJWs
But I
still
don't
fitted
think
those.
I don't think they were nearly anti-war as much as it was a warning that war could bring this upon us.
Yeah.
It was more like this could be what happened, like, because a lot of guys that worked in those fields were veterans or were in the war. So, I mean,
they got sick of being in bears switching back and forth from global cooling and global warming, so they changed it to climate change.
Yeah, of course.
Well, here's the thing about SJWs. They don't have shame.
When my parents were growing up, and they were, my age or whatever, they were calling it. My dad said he can remember articles where they were calling it global cooling. That there was going to be a massive global cooling, and then when I was a kid, it was all global warming, and then now, because they've been wrong so many times,
climate change.
They just call it climate change.
It's 2/3 warming and 1/3 cooling. I thought it was pro-war propaganda cartoons. I believe that so ironically, if you guys know anything about if you guys know anything about Hitler's Youth, a lot of the brainwashing they did was with cartoons, which is why you should always be very careful about what you watch, let your children watch, because SJWs have a lot of qualities and a lot of similarities with Nazism, if you actually look into it, because their tactics are almost exactly on point. They're like almost the exact same. And document the children, blame it all on one race of people. Go for it, Adrian.
Oh, I was going to say Japan did a lot of child propaganda as well before World War II.
Oh yeah, it was like what they do first is start with the children. And then once you have the children, because children are very easy to manipulate, you can just go from there. And they started a lot with manipulating the children and brainwashing the children, and they did it with cartoons. So
Oh
I
yeah.
would be very careful because, yes, Adrian?
I said, oh yeah, I agree.
Oh, I thought you said wait. But yeah,
No.
just you always want to be very careful with what you allow your children to watch. And honestly, I wouldn't recommend any modern cartoons. I think the only one that's somewhat good right now for children would probably be Total Dramarama, because that one seems to actually focus on just wanting a good TV show instead of politics. And it's nothing to write home about, but at least it's not full of propaganda. So it is very interesting. Um, sort of move on to the next Cartoon Network show. Let's kind of go back to Adventure Time, which was the show that saved Cartoon Network. And what Adventure Time started was shows that sort of aimed more towards teenagers, and that's sort of when all the SJW stuff hit, because this was the creator of Adventure Time didn't really care what people did in the episode as long as CNN didn't write back about it. And that was a lot of the TV shows now that are super SJW. A lot of that staff for those shows,
Worked on Adventure Time.
yeah, came from Adventure Time. So it's very interesting because the Rebecca Sugar, the creator of Steven Universe, came from Adventure Time. The person that does OKKO actually worked with Rebecca Sugar, and I think he wasn't on Adventure Time, but I can't don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure. But I do know he was from he dated Rebecca Sugar.
A lot of Adventure Time took people from the indie comic scene and
They
brought
took
them in
people from
too.
Tumblr. That's what they took. That's where they got Rebecca Sugar
Well,
from.
that might be true, but they took a lot of people from the indie comic scene too. Because Brandon Graham, the guy that got in trouble for using trans women, basically, just like last year, he worked on Adventure Time. He did some episode writing of Adventure Time.
Yeah, Adventure Time, I would say, was the no. I think he dated her. I don't think they got married. A lot of Adventure Time was aired more towards teenagers, and that's bad for a show that's centered around kids. And now they have Adventure Time airing. Like, I think it's one of the first things you see on Adult Swim. Like, I think Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm not for sure though.
That's probably right.
And that's where it should have started off at. And originally, I think it was supposed to be on Adult Swim, but they
Didn't it?
moved it to originally it was supposed to be on Adult Swim, but it wasn't.
I
Oh, and
was
here's
gonna say
another thing.
I remember watching it on Adult Swim when it first
No,
piloted.
no. It was maybe the pilot was actually on Nickelodeon. Um,
Really?
because Nickelodeon passed on it because they thought it would be too adult, and it kind of was. A lot of the stuff that you see in Adventure Time, like a lot of the SJW stuff, was literally the Tumblr writers and artists just sort of sneaking it in and moving it past the original creator of the show, who again didn't really care about what was going on because he was getting a paycheck. Though, and to sort of move back to Adventure Time real quick, Adventure Time originally failed when it first aired because the reviews on it were terrible. What they did was they started moving it to time slots that would actually help it, but they also started doing Steven Bomb, so more people would be interested in watching it. So they'd have to, because they'd be able to watch all the episodes in 1 week instead of waiting weekly, where it was proved that people didn't like to watch Steven Universe weekly. It's kind of been proved that Steven Universe fans are usually around 20-ish instead of child age, which is bad for a child show, which sort of brings me to the point of SJWs think they're children. They think they are a void of responsibility, think that anything for children should not be made for children, but for SJWs. And they just they sexualize everything, and this is something that they accuse men of doing with My Little Pony. And let's be honest, there's a lot of weird stuff with My Little Pony, but they then go and sexualize shows like Adventure Time, shows like Steven Universe, which are supposed to be for children. And they do this with other shows that really aren't SJW. Like there's a lot of Starfire Raven porn, very creepy porn, by the way. And there's a lot of really creepy like fan fictions of certain cartoon characters as gay or lesbians, and even with a more recent one with Voltron that actually pandered a lot to them, they downvoted it like crazy on Rotten Tomatoes, which kind of is funny. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but they downvoted it like crazy on Rotten Tomatoes for the simple fact it didn't do the pair that they wanted, which is really funny because by Rotten Tomatoes' own standards with Captain Marvel, which actually those weren't even reviews, you would think that they would delete those reviews because they're not validated reviews. They're people that just don't like how the show's pairings ended up because they wanted everybody to be gay. Only a tiny percentage of bronies or cloppers. I don't know what that means, but I don't think I want to know what that means. What are some? Amazing World of Gumball. That's probably one of the only shows that's not full-blown SJW and has actually made fun of SJWs. That one, again, I would not recommend letting your children watch because there is a lot of adult jokes in there. But if you do want to watch a modern cartoon and you are an adult, I do recommend that because Amazing World of Gumball is actually a lot of fun. That sounds awful withheld. Yeah, they've actually... And this is a complaint I have for Teen Titans Go. Teen Titans Go has way too many 80s and 90s references to be for kids. Like, you should not have that many references to 80s culture and then claim to be a kid's show. Like, you can't do that. You should make references to more modern stuff. Are you being serious with Held Rather Nixon? I wouldn't be shocked what Infamous does, to be honest. She does weird stuff, and I recommend blocking her on Twitter because once you do, it saves you a lot of like, what the hell? Futa? Futa? Yeah, I know what Futa is. Yeah, thanks to a bunch of people on Twitter that like to share. Somebody on Twitter sent me this fan fiction of Starfire and Raven. Like, it was really gross. Okay, so Starfire had like. It was gross. It was gross, and I do not like to be sent that stuff. Like, it was nasty. And I read the description of it, and I stopped. I was like, why would you send this to me? No, the best thing to do is just block SJWs when you come across them on Twitter. And I know that I guess you could say that validates them. Well, to some creators that validates them when you block them. But it's better to block them than have them go after you for something as simple as you saying you don't like an actress as a character, which they will ultimately do. Like, if you say you didn't like Anna Diop Starfire, if an SJW sees that, especially like a Infamous SJW follower, they may get really upset and crazy. And I'm not blaming Infamous for her followers because, again, she can't really be held responsible for that.
I am.
You are? Well, as long as
she actively tells them to do stuff all the
time. I'm
going
to be honest with you. I've had her blocked since I've had her blocked since August, haven't I? No, I've had her blocked earlier than that because I had her blocked in the summertime.
For a long time.
Yeah, I think I blocked her in May because I was like, I'm not putting up with this. So I don't know what she does. I just know that the best thing to do is block them.
People to go after people.
Does she? I know that she she doxes people, which is one of the reasons why. Because as soon as I found out that she doxed somebody, I was like, block. Yeah, I know she doxes people. I know she doxed somebody that donated to Richard's GoFundMe. Richard, by the way, is a really nice guy, and I really do hate how SJWs have painted him off as this terrible, terrible person, because when you actually talk to him, he's really, really nice. Isn't the compassion?
It doesn't matter because he doesn't meet their viewpoint, so he's not going to be nice.
Yeah, the SJWs have, for the most part, they had really, like, the SJW pros at least, have calmed down, and they don't really go after people as much as they did DNC. And I think a lot of it is because they didn't like the fact that, because SJWs hate the comic book fans. They don't. It's like it's not the pros that upset them as much, like the comic book pros. It's not the comic book pros that upset the other SJW comic pros. It's the fan base, because the fan base are the ones not buying their books, and because we're buying books of other people, so they're really upset about that. And huh?
Of course they are.
And I'm not discrediting the stuff that's been happening lately, but I think that's coming from other SJW fans. I don't think that's coming from the pros.
Oh yeah,
it is
definitely the pros
yeah.
involved in that, probably.
But the pros, for the most part, when this all started, they were very aggressive, like actively, like saying that they were gonna hurt people and stuff, like following Richard and saying they were gonna beat. Yeah, the lawsuit scared them. I think that scared them. Yeah, I think it may have, but also he went sort of silent on Twitter, and I think that they were like, well, we can't like go after him anymore, or they just got smarter about what they've been planning. That's all I really can say, is that they may have gotten smarter. But I don't even, because I've had SJW's writers message me on Facebook for being a mod for DNC. So I haven't even had that in a while. So thank freak for that. I posted a link to Eric's Indiegogo. If you guys could consider checking that out real quick. I was watching EVS as well early on, but only recently started using the chat. I suspect a lot of you did too. Actually, I wasn't a big EVS fan. I do follow him on Twitter, and he follows me on Twitter. But I'm just like, I have a hard time staying in his chats because they move so fast that they give me a headache. And I can't, like, I just can't follow them. So I stay to sort of the smaller ones, like Gary Shipman, and then like people like Manny, who I have a lot of fun trolling. I love trolling Manny. That's like the prime of my day, and I wish he would do it more. Yes, I was a mod for Mike. I still do mod his Facebook page. I've just kind of gotten my own projects and stuff that I don't really focus as much on it. Ignite the fire in my round star. Oh my god, John Dillard, that sounds disgusting. Oh, and thank you, John, real quick, for the the Simpsons Starfire. That was really
Simpson drawings. Those Simpson drawings he's doing are just those are great. Boosters is so good.
Yeah, Boosters was Zach. What was his name? The Captain Kirk guy from Futurama. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I plan on having Eric do pin pages for me in the future for my project. Give the guy any support that you can by sharing the link. Oh yeah. I still get along with Mike. I still spam him when I get super excited about Starfire stuff, and he always just goes, "Okay, Pope, calm down." Yeah, so I like Mike. He's a good guy. He actually has a lot of the art I have on my wall is from Mike. Well, not a lot of it. A lot of the commission pieces I have are from Mike. I have a Popefire, a Starfire, and then a Night Star I got from him. So I like Mike. Mike's a good guy. I definitely good vibes his way. Zach Bradigan, the sex hungry Captain Kirk. Yes, that was his name. Yeah, that was freaking brilliant. Hey, that's cool. Yes. Oh, you just commissioned him for a pinup? Yeah, Eric is supposed to be doing a icon for me, a new icon for the YouTube page, and that's gonna be super cool. I know I just commissioned Kat, and I believe, yes, I commissioned Jiminy Cricket, and those are going to be some really cool pictures, by the way. I just received Lone Star today, but he's a small. I don't want to think about cartoon character penises, to be honest. Have we covered all the Cartoon Network shows, by the way, that are currently airing? Oh, Craig of the Creek.
Craig of the Creek. That's a good one.
That does have some SJW's moments. It feels a lot like Codename Kids Next Door with more politics. Do you have anything you want to say about Craig on the Creek real quick? Because you were the one that remembered it.
I've only seen like a couple episodes, and the thing I noticed is like the most masculine character in the show is a girl.
I mean, to me, that I
That
just thought
doesn't
she
look like a
was
girl.
You don't think Kelsey looks like a girl? She looks like a normal tomboy kid.
The Knight? The Knight?
Yeah.
I was a boy when I first watched it.
No, Kelsey from Craig of the Creek. I think she looks like a girl. I think she looks like
Okay.
because she reminds me of somebody that I had in school, in elementary school. I thought she looked, because she looks
I
like
can see
a,
the tomboyness.
yeah. Let me send. I mean, I'll let you guys, like. Do you guys think this is like a good design for? I believe she's a 10-year-old girl. Like she's either 10 or 11. Because to me, I think she looks. Yes, we will cover Powerpuff Girls. I have a lot to say about that, actually. I wish I didn't have a lot to say, but I do. I think she looks okay for a 10-year-old girl, but I can also understand what you're saying, that maybe she looks a little bit more. I look more of the real Captain Marvel over here. Red leather, yellow leather, blue leather, Captain Marvel. No, I think that they may be trying to reboot a few more shows. Looks kind of like a boy. Yeah, but you have to remember that she's a 10-year-old girl, so she's not going to have too much of a feminine body.
Oh, true.
I mean, to me, I don't have. There's a lot of episodes that I think are really good in Craig of the Creek, but I'd also would recommend.
The ones I've seen, like the episodes I saw were like when they first aired, like the first pilot episodes and stuff. And I thought the premise was pretty good. Like it was pretty cute.
Well, I
would watch it with my kid, but yeah, I've noticed like some SJW stuff in it.
There's a lot of there's, I believe, a few episodes you have to watch out for, but for the most part, I get a lot of Codename Kids Next Door from this series, and Codename Kids Next Door is one of my
I
favorite
never
series of all
watched
the time.
that.
Really? Oh, that was such a fun series growing up.
I was not a kid when it was out, so
Yeah. I forget that sometimes you're older than
I was
me.
in college when that came out.
No, Codename Kids Next Door was a really fun series about the adventures of children that were just. Okay, sorry, I don't have to go to work early tomorrow. Booyah! Okay, sorry. But yeah, Codename Kids Next Door. It reminds me a lot of Codename Kids Next Door, but I would watch the episodes beforehand if you do want to watch them with your children, because there are some SJW episodes in some of them, and they're not as bad as, say, Steven Universe or definitely OKKO, which literally doesn't even make it subtle. But it is still to a point to where you're like, okay, I don't really want my children to be to have this in their head, because again, and here's the thing, I'm just gonna say this now. I don't think every SJW knows what they're doing is wrong. I think they're just.
I think they're doing right.
There's
what they're doing is right.
Yes, I believe some of them actually believe what they're doing is right, and that they think that they are actually making the world a better place. I don't think they are. They think what they're doing is wrong. I don't think they know that trying to control people emotionally, mentally, and physically is evil. And again, it is evil when you try to control every aspect of somebody's life. I think they're just freaking stupid,
No,
and it shows because.
They think they're smarter than the average person.
Well, I would say that definitely the feminists, definitely
are
feminists.
going to save the world.
Yes, I mean, I would argue that feminists, especially the ones that they use their feminine card all the time. And I'm not gonna lie, I use my feminine card against SJWs. I'm like, well, I am a woman. What are you gonna use? Like, what are you gonna call me over that? But I believe feminists are probably the worst of the SJWs. And it's because the feminists actually come off as mean girls that really just want to get their way, and when they don't get it, it's the end of the world. Like, I really do believe that feminists, especially rich feminists, are some of the worst people to have as an SJW. Most SJWs probably think they're doing is keeping with liberalism, but it isn't what I consider progressive. Well, a lot of modern SJWs, a lot of them, especially the ones in media right now, are having to be SJWs because they're scared of losing their job, because they're scared of getting Me Too'd. So it's kind of hard because they run things by fear, and I honestly believe that a lot of just the smaller SJWs are just stupid because they don't know any better, and the higher up ones are definitely evil. They know what they're doing is wrong, and they're doing it for more power. But the smaller ones are just doing it because they honestly think that they're changing the world for the better. And that's
They've been propagandized into thinking that.
yeah.
It's just like the most recent thing Rifamous has been on is she got a bunch of people banned from Twitter today or whatever, right?
Right.
And if you saw like the comments section, it's all these like gifs of Brad Pitt and the guys from Inglourious Bastards, as if, you know, like they're fighting the Nazis. Like they literally think they're fighting people that are comparable to the Nazis. They're so stupid when it comes to that.
It's because, and I'm just gonna say this now, their entire life, and I used to be a feminist. I'm not a feminist anymore. But your entire life, you're told that these people are evil, that men want to hurt you, that everybody is inherently evil and racist and all this other stuff. So you believe it because you've been told it your whole life. And I'm from a red state, and we've been taught that. I can't imagine what it's like in blue states.
Yeah, you don't want to be here.
Yeah, well, I mean, they justify violence that way.
Yes, that's exactly how they do it.
Because a Nazi in their eyes isn't a human being, right? But
Right.
they define what a Nazi is. They don't actually go by what the actual definition of what a Nazi is.
Because if they did that, they'd have to face the facts that they're more Nazi-like than anything else.
That's pretty correct.
And again, I am not saying, I'm not just justifying SJW tactics or anything like that. I'm just sort of explaining why a lot of smaller SJWs that don't really benefit from it are SJWs, and why it really is everything they complain about. Because again, SJWs are massive hypocrites, but they're literally, like, they're trying to fight the man while doing things for the man. So that's what's so funny about it. I used to be left. That's why I like Comicsgate and Team Comics. It allows people to have their own characters. Well, Comicsgate, for the most part, and there has been this sort of movement to sort of, like, I don't want to get too much into it, but Comicsgate started on people just not liking things and wanting to be able to disagree in a debate. Sometimes it doesn't always feel like some people allow that, but for the most part, Comicsgate is about discussion and being open to things. Because most Comicsgaters, and I know this from running the Facebook group, most Comicsgaters don't give a rat's ass if you are gay, if you are black, white, female, male, transgendered. The only thing they care about is good comics, and they want to talk good comics, and it's okay if you don't agree with them or disagree with them, because they can move on. Because as long as they're getting a decent comic, as long as they're getting a good comic, they're happy. And no, not everybody is like that. There are some people that get very upset if you don't agree with EVS or DNC or any other Comicsgate creator. But for the most part, the majority of people in Comicsgate are very open to conversation. They're very open to disagreements. I don't agree with everything Adrian agrees with. I don't agree with everything Night Pope agrees with, but we're still really good friends, and I invite them to my streams, and I talk to them, and I have conversations with them almost every night. And I don't agree with everything they agree with, because I don't have to agree with everything they agree with. And they're not scared that I'm going to turn around and go, well, they said this, so they're a Nazi, or they said this, or this, because literally disagreements happen. And I'm not saying that anybody on this panel is a Nazi. I was just doing what SJWs do, where if you disagree with them, they literally turn around and call you a Nazi, which is ironic because the majority, the biggest people that fight SJWs tend to be people that used to be an SJW. And they left because SJWs turn and eat their own.
I just realized it was stupid after living in California, where it's like to the 10,000th degree.
I agree with Shabby. I agree with Jacob all the time, and it's because he's attractive, and I'm okay with admitting that. But that's also because I could never understand him. So I'm just like, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, he could be saying, kill all the puppies, and I'd be like, yeah, because I couldn't understand what he's saying. Socialism is supposed to be worker ownership. That never happens with socialism, but it happens when Zack and EBS have their own characters. Socialism is a really bad concept. Like, there's no responsibility in socialism, right?
Yeah, I love people that say, well, socialism looks good on paper. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It still looks like theft.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. The female case. That's why we get along so well. Yeah, I don't even have to know what he's saying to agree with him. But no, socialism, communism, very evil concepts of life, right? There's, and I'm just gonna say this now, feminism and SJWs want communism and socialism because they have no actual skills to give back to the world. Like, there's nothing that they can contribute to the world, but they still want to save the world. That's all it boils down to. Small companies are amazing, and we should focus more on that. But we have so many big companies popping up that ironically are giving in to socialism, because socialism is all about who has power and not actually helping the people, which, again, they like to say that socialism will help the poor and help the middle class, but actually what it ends up doing is it destroys the middle class, and the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor, and the middle class doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's basic economy. You learn that in the freaking 7th grade, if not sooner.
No.
Like, that's something a 5-year-old should know when they're 4. Well, no, technically that's kind of over-exaggerating, but that's something that should be very simple to understand. I mean, it's kind of like people that say that we should have a $15 minimum wage. We shouldn't, because then because we get a $15 minimum wage, we become freaking Canada, where our dollar is useless. Not
the
to
$15 minimum wage, we get McDonald's that's automated.
Yeah. Well, what they'll just end up doing is they'll just end up replacing jobs with machines again, and then we can start telling everybody that no, what I find really funny is a lot of news places are already hiring people, and they're not hiring the people they fired. So I do find it kind of funny, because all those people are like, you guys are being racist. It's like, you guys were hired for the simple fact of to fill a diversity quota. You guys didn't have any talents or skills or even a motive to even stay on there other than just spouting political garbage.
Well, see, they made the mistake of not learning to code. So
yeah, they need to start learning to code. I think that is the most brilliant troll ever in the history of troll, is to learn to code. Like, that is just so genius.
I remember the articles where they said that same stuff pretty much to the miners.
Yeah, I remember reading on that, and then they get so very upset when somebody gives them their own medicine, because SJWs cannot handle their own medicine, because
never.
They're massive SJWs. That's all it is. It's just being massive SJWs. Hello, Crypto. You caught us mid-rant. How are you doing?
Great. How are you? Is everything all right?
Yeah. We started this off talking cartoons.
I'm okay with $15 minimum wage if it means that I don't have to pay the person working at the local burger joint to screw up my order. Because machines don't screw up orders. So
teach their own.
Yeah, I love that article. New Yorkers fought for higher minimum wage. Now they're fighting against unjust firings.
Yeah.
And my favorite one was the story about this lady, and she had called saying, "Oh, I can't get a sitter. I won't be able to come in." The next day she was fired. It's like, I told them I wouldn't be there, and it's like, yeah, well, did they say that they were going to let you not be there?
Ooh.
Right. Well, to back crypto up, I will not have to worry about a person taking my order and in mid-order them answering their phone. That happened to me at a Burger King once.
Oh my god, Burger King. No, okay, the worst place for me is Wendy's. And I don't eat fast food often, but every time I go to a dang Wendy's, it is like the absolute worst customer service, I swear.
Really?
Yes. They expect me
I've
to
only had
actually
that
be at work.
recently. Wendy's.
The postcards. It's dumb. You should just stop tipping. It's dumb. Yeah, I don't know. I like tipping. I worked as a busser, then I turned into a waitress and all this other stuff. I made a lot of money off of tips, so I am fine with tipping. Like
I
tip
tip
all
a
you
good-
want.
I tip good waiters. If they're good, I tip them.
Yeah.
If they're not, I don't.
And it's really not hard to be a good waiter. Just fill up the sodas.
Apparently it
the
is.
aisle. Apparently it is. Yeah. Well, they like to say that people will tip regardless of what do you eat. No, Kale. Popefire has a really healthy diet of protein. I don't eat carbs, or I try not to eat carbs, and I really try to eat like protein and veggies. Like my favorite food is carrots. So yeah, I'm like a little Tim Lim likes to call me a little rabbit. It's kind of funny. I like carrots. I'm gonna get a little flack for this, but I do like tofu. However, I do not eat a vegan diet. The vegan diet has been proved to be extremely unhealthy, and you need protein and you need meat to survive. Because I've tried a vegan diet for the simple fact that I was like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can do this because I'm tired of all the vegans saying, well, being vegan is super easy, and it's not, okay? You feel very queasy all the time. You feel very unhealthy, and you feel just completely like everything, like massive headaches. Yes, you're weak. You might lose a lot of weight, but it's not a healthy amount, and you really do need protein and meat to have a balanced diet. And tofu does cause some issues stomach wise, and like I believe it actually has a higher chance of getting cancer. I'm not sure though, so don't quote me on it. But I eat fish and I eat chicken and I eat beef sometimes. I love me some protein. Like I love chicken, I love food, I love meat. I'm a meat eater, and I'm fine with that. And I don't fucking care if the animal had a freaking face on it. I'm gonna eat it anyways. Now I do not eat pork, but that's because my stomach cannot handle it unless it's like severely like burnt. Like I can only really eat like super burnt bacon, because for some reason the fat on pork just does not agree with my stomach, and it just upchucks. It's not fun. That's a really nice Shazam you got going on there.
Thanks.
Yes, the people who are in the Discord wanted me to say it's a nice Shazam.
No, real tofu is really good in soup, right? But I don't eat it. Like I don't eat tofu unless it's in soup. Like that's just. If you're a Raven fan, then I'll invite you to join the Cult of Raven, lols. Yeah, Joshua's always, I do have to give it to Joshua. He's always here, and he's always making sure that he recruits people for the Cult of Raven.
Joshua must have like 20 computer screens at his desk, because he's on every stream, it seems like.
He just alt tabs.
Yeah.
Oh, so this Saturday we are doing.
But the Cult of Raven Joshua. It's gonna happen.
Yes, the Night Pope and Joshua are the missing links between Cult of Raven and the Church of Starfire. This Saturday we are gonna have a really nice At the Altar. We're gonna have like a whole bunch of people on, and it's gonna be super fun because we're gonna talk about families in comics and why DC and Marvel aren't really big on modern families, and a lot of that kind of boils down to artists being really depressed. So we'll do that, and we will have a lot of special artists on. Like we'll have Trusty Sidekick on. We'll have Gary Shipman's Offspring on. So that'll be very interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yes, we will also have Adrian, and Jiminy Cricket is going to try to be there. And then, of course, Mr. Marvel has said that he might try to stop by as well. So we will have some people on this weekend at the altar. That will be really fun. And then of course we will have our regulars like Manny, Jacob, and Adrian. So yeah, definitely check us out Saturday. My throat is really getting dried up, and I think I talked too much. So I am going to end the stream and get me some water. So thank you guys for being here, and you guys all have a nice night.
Oh, okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, bye.